My name is Ted Puntillo, and I am the Director of Veteran Services for Solano County. Been here since August 1st of 2011. Prior to that, I was Deputy Secretary for the State of California, Veteran Affairs. Prior to that, I was the Veteran Service Officer in Yolo County for 5 years. Before that, I was on the Davis City Council for 4 years, Mayor of Davis in 2006. And before that, I was the Postmaster of Davis for 20 years. I was in the U.S. Army from 66 to 69, and Vietnam 67, 68. Every county in the state of California has a Veteran Service Office, 56 out of 58. Alpine and Sierra don't have one because there's no people there. But we have one, and it's one of the most prolific ones in California. We have approximately 6 staff that are vet reps. We're all veterans here. When people come in, with my office, I don't leave them any doubt that I have served, but that's one of the questions they tend to ask. Did you serve? Oh, yeah, I did. Oh, and then you're sort of on the same wavelength. Because there's the old saying, if you didn't serve, I can't tell you about it. If you did serve, I don't have to. And I think it just improves your rapport. And there's so many veterans out there that really want to do this job. I think most people could do this job. It's try to get this job that's hard. So I love this job. It's the best job I ever had. I'm the director, and I oversee my staff, which is fairly small. My favorite thing to do here is to do outreach. I go out to community events and organizations and tell about the veterans benefits that are available. I also file claims for people. I do about 5 to 10 claims a day where we get people connected to their benefits that results in health care or money or educational benefits. What we try to do, and the counties are trying to do, is get veterans connected to their benefits. And what that does, it avoids costs for them for health care. It drives federal dollars into Solano County, right into the pockets of veterans who spend that money. So we're sort of like an economic machine here. Last year we were responsible for about $20 million of new money from the feds coming into the pockets of veterans in Solano County. Overall, last year, $126 million of benefits came into the pockets of veterans from the federal government. So basically, that's a lot of money coming into the county that people buy cars with, they buy newspapers, they buy TVs, houses, and that's what we do. We connect them with their benefits, both medical, compensation, pension, educational, housing, so that they can be prosperous. We average 50 veterans a day. We're open from 9 to noon and 1 to 4. And this office, we see 50 veterans. We see about 10 to 15 a day out at Travis. I have a vet rep at Travis. We also have a volunteer who is a retired county veteran service officer in Mare Island who has office hours from 12 to 5 on Tuesday and Wednesday. We have approximately 40,000 veterans in Solano County, and if you use the rule of 2.5 dependents to 1 veteran, they have spouses and children who also could be eligible for veterans benefits, educational, health care, things like that. So, it's over 100,000 people in Solano County that we could potentially help get their benefits. Then you add Travis Air Force Base, there's probably 10 or 15,000 veterans or future veterans out there that are interested in what we do. For every 1 person in the service, it takes 10 people behind them to do the logistics, to the supply, the transportation, the health care, things like that. So, if say there's 3 or 4 million people in the service, maybe 5 or 10% of them actually see live combat. And some people fly over and drop things on people. That could be considered combat, but going house to house, door to door, shooting people, it's a very small percentage. But there are the people that are in transportation, that are in sort of protected areas. You're subject to snipers, you're subject to ambush, you're subject to improvised explosive devices, incoming rockets, mortars. So if you're in a theater of operation that's in combat, you're probably always sort of on your alert and always subject to some type of harm from the enemy. The number 1 disability that veterans have is hearing loss. And when you get to be my age, you need hearing aids, okay? You've been exposed to a lot of gunfire, ship's noise, artillery, aircraft, you name it. Whatever the military does, it does it loud. And In my day, there was absolutely no hearing protection. They'd send us to the range to shoot for weeks, not even give you cotton. So we just have hearing loss at our age. Even the younger people are going to Iraq and Afghanistan. They give them hearing protection when they're training, but if you're in a live combat situation, you probably don't want to not hear. So you don't wear hearing protection. You have to be aware of everything. So hearing loss and tinnitus or tinnitus, the ringing in your ears, is our number one. Other people have orthopedic injuries. There are people who have mental health conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety. That seems to go a lot with combat. So we help these people get connected to treatment for those and get compensated from the Veterans Administration for having those situations. I'd say it's about 60-40. We get the older people, the Vietnam, Korean War, and some World War II vets. And then we have the peacetime vets from 75 to 90. And then about 40% of them are the current conflict veterans who are coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan, or were in during that time. There's really there's one difference, but the majority of them have hearing problems. Okay, secondly, it's orthopedic problems, because there's no OSHA in the service. They make you do all kinds of stuff, and you can't complain to the safety captain because that doesn't exist in the service. So I think one of the things that we see is the increase in mental health issues. And I don't know if it's because we're recognizing that now and encouraging people to talk about it. World War II, no health issues, no mental health issues. There wasn't even the term PTSD. They called it battle fatigue or nervous reaction or something like that, and it was sort of scorned. If you had that, you were like a coward, and it was unfortunate that they did that. Vietnam, people came back, and same with Korea, and just know, you're all screwed up. You're an alcoholic, you're a dope addict, you're whatever. Now we're seeing, that was probably PTSD. Now we're recognizing that, so there is a big uptick in the amount of mental health claims that are being filed. And I don't know if it goes hand in hand, but there's also a huge increase in suicides of military. And there used to be like 12% or 12 out of 10,000, and now it's up to the national average and maybe even exceeding it a little, where it used to be much lower. So that's disturbing. There's about half of the people that we talk to have no idea that there are benefits out there. Some of them have heard about it, but don't really know. If they know, they don't know how to access them. They hear from their friends or buddies, oh, I'm getting this, I'm getting that, and they really don't know what to do. So what we encourage people to do is bring your discharge into our office and let us give you an evaluation of what you have coming. When I came back from Vietnam, I was in Vietnam on May 14th of 1968, and then, believe it or not, May 14th of 1968, I was also sitting in my mom's kitchen having a sandwich. So because of the time difference, 24 hours from sitting in Vietnam, and I'm sitting in my mom's kitchen. So it was a big shock to me that, and a lot of people in those days had that shock. Now they bring people back slowly. They bring them back in a unit. They have a lot of debriefings. They have a lot of physicals, a lot of mental health assessments before they let you go, okay? And people getting out of the service, they go through a 1 to 2 week process called TAP, Transitional Assistance Program. In fact, that's what one of our people are over there doing every 3 days a week. We talk to them and we let them know if you have an issue, if you were injured, if you have something going on, you can get compensated for it. We need to file a claim for you. We sign them up for health care right away. There's a world of difference in what happens today. And then there's that network afterwards of our office being here and wanting them to come in and see us. And most of them do. The modern day veterans are pretty savvy, and they're given every opportunity to take advantage of the benefits they've earned. In the 60s, 50s, 40s, not so much. You got out, you were just, I don't want to see you guys anymore, and you don't want to see me. And that's the way it was. The World War II people, they were welcome home as heroes that they were, and they should have been. Korean War veterans, they were not welcome home at all. They were just totally ignored. Vietnam vets, they were welcomed home, but in a very negative way, which I think our country's learned our lesson there. But since the first Gulf War in '91, there's been a world of difference in the type of treatment they get when they get home. They have to ask for it. Nobody makes them do it. There's no VA police that go and get somebody, but if they apply, they're going to be treated fairly well. The VA is much different than it was in my day. I got out of the service in 1969. I went over to the Veterans Administration. I had an issue that I'd had in the service. I went over to Governor's Hall at the old State Fairgrounds on Broadway and Stockton Boulevard. That's where the VA was. And I went in and I talked to a guy about my condition. And I didn't even get to see a doctor. I just was talking to the receptionist, the clerk. And he said, just go home and soak it. You don't need to come here. So I went, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. So I go to Kaiser, my other healthcare provider, and I was immediately admitted and I had surgery, okay? And I needed it or else I was gonna be very sick. So the VA was not good until probably the late 80s, and then it made a big turnaround. It is so much better now. I have VA, I have Kaiser, and I have Blue Cross. I use all three. I love the VA. They gave me free hearing aids. I get free eyeglasses if I need them. They just give me wonderful service, and I think it's so much better now than it was. And everybody who goes there, I've heard very few, maybe 1–2% people say, oh, I don't like that. They're getting very good care there. One thing that seems to be very important to a lot of people now is the World War II, Korean War, and even some Vietnam War veterans are getting up in age. Some of them are developing Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, dementia. There is a very seldom talked about benefit called Veterans Pension with aid and attendance. And it's mostly for people who are unable to care for themselves, who live in an assisted living environment. Those assisted living places cost a lot of money. And the VA, if you qualify, can help you with, a married couple can get up to $2,100 a month tax-free. A single veteran can get $1,766 a month. A widow of a wartime veteran can get $1,100 a month to help offset the cost of the assisted living or the in-home care or whatever they have. So it's a little-known benefit that needs to be talked about, because we're all going to get there eventually. And if we need assisted living, if you were in during a war, you didn't have to be in the war, but just in during it, less than $80,000 of liquid assets, your income is offset by your assisted living costs, we can get you that money. And we'd love to do it. One other thing, Vietnam veterans, people who were boots on the ground in Vietnam, there's 13 different diseases that are automatically service connected for boots on the ground service in Vietnam. The most common is ischemic heart disease. Ischemic heart disease is where you have a decreased blood flow to your heart. You either get a stent or a bypass or a balloon. That is ischemic heart disease. If you served in country in Vietnam and you have that, you're automatically service connected. You can get money, health care, a bunch of benefits for that. If you have diabetes, prostate cancer, lymphoma, leukemia, respiratory cancer, Parkinson's disease, or multiple myeloma, and you served in Vietnam, those are all automatically service-connected conditions, and most of them pay a lot of money every month. So we're encouraging the elderly who are in need of assisted living, Vietnam veterans who were boots on the ground who have those conditions, and anybody with hearing loss. Those are our most common customers. Just come in and we will help you. The key to all this is your discharge, your DD-214. Prior to Korean War, it was just called Notice of Separation. After that, it was called Form DD-214. You've earned this. You're leaving money on the table if you don't take advantage of it. And I've heard people say, well, there's worse off people than us. And that's not true, okay? In fact, if you don't use these benefits, you're doing your fellow veterans a disservice. The way the government works, as we all know, it's a use it or lose it. And you need these services, but you're not using them. They won't be there in the future because the government will say, oh, we didn't need this. Nobody's using it. So we need to use these services. And it's better to do this than to lay it on your private health care provider, your family, or the county. The federal government puts you in that position. They used you. Now it's time for you to use them a little bit. If you're a veteran and you need our services, just come into our office. We're at 675 Texas on the 4th floor in the big county building. We're open 9 to noon, 1 to 4, Monday through Friday. There's always somebody here who will help you. And if you want to call us, we don't take appointments. Call us at area code 707-784-6590. If you're a veteran in crisis, you can come and see us, call us, or there is a Veterans Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255. That's 1-800-273-8255. They're 24 hours a day. They're used to dealing with veterans who are in crisis, and they help you.